Hey guys, coming at you from the kitchen so that we can talk about macros. Figure out what they are and how to count them before we actually get started on Sunday. Hopefully everybody's been practicing this week, and if you're logging, if you're weighing and measuring and logging in Fat Secret, you've got an idea what's going in some of the foods that you eat. So first of all, macros is short for macronutrients, and these are your primary sources of energy. So it's your protein, your carbs, and your fats. When you take a look at protein, these are pretty much your building blocks for muscle. And when you look at your carbohydrate, these are very heavy in energy. This is what's going to put most of the glucose and glycogen into your body, and that's what you use as your primary energy source during activity and for your brain for thinking throughout the day. And then fat is the final one. This is actually the most energy dense, and it's what we have the most in storage in our body. But we don't use it as the primary source of our fuel. It's mostly a backup source. And depending on the type of activity that we're performing, we'll use more or less of it. So our goal is to get our body to use as much of that stuff as possible so that we can burn through it and lean out a little bit, right? So now that we know what macros are, how do we count them? This right here, protein, where do we find it? Steak, chicken, most of your meats and seafoods, salmon. You can actually find it in some of your vegetables. Peas have a pretty good amount of protein, even though they're very high in carb. You can find it in nuts and seeds, but your primary source of protein is going to be your meat and seafood. Now, one of the biggest mistakes in counting protein is taking this here, tossing it on the scale, and going, all right, that's 340 grams of steak. And then thinking that that is 340 grams of protein because steak is where protein comes from. This is a really, really, really common mistake. There's 340 grams of steak there, but then you want to take that and go put it in the app. And when you do that, and you go and put it in the app, 332 grams of steak is actually 99 grams of protein. And 22 grams of fat. Is that perfect? Nope. None of this macro counting is perfect, but it's close enough, and it allows us to develop habits every day and kind of stay in a certain range every day. So, all right, so that's how we're counting our protein. And when you put it in there, you'll find out how much is actually in everything that you eat. And then the more that you do it, the more you'll get used to it. Same thing with your carbohydrates. We're going to find carbohydrates in a lot of this good stuff. Vegetables and fruits. When you go to measure this stuff, you'll want to put it in something. And it's going to be the same thing as your chicken or your steak. You're going to go ahead, toss some of it in there. Right now I've got 65 grams of broccoli, which isn't very much. You can see that's how I'm measuring it. 65 grams of broccoli. And if you go and put that in the app, it's not actually going to be 65 grams of carbohydrate. It's going to be much less. It's going to be like 3 or 4 grams of carbohydrate right there. Because while these are very heavy in micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals, they're not very dense with carbohydrate. Now, if you were to take something else like candy before your workout, that's a little different. When you're counting that, if you're counting it on the fly, if you want to do it before you actually entered into the app, here, let me get some. I'll get my almost empty bag of Sour Patch Kids here. When you're counting this stuff, Look at the nutrition facts label. Total carbohydrate 37 grams for how many? Serving size 16 pieces. And you just use this as a judgment call. 16 pieces is 37 grams of carbohydrate. Awesome. So I'm probably going to have, if I'm a female and I need 40 to 60 grams of carb before my workout, and I choose to do it with candy or with Sour Patch Kids, I'm probably going to have 20 pieces. And then I'll go and log that in Fat Secret as part of my carb. Now, if you want to use fruit or fruit juice, you're more than welcome to. And people who are on level 2, I would suggest using either candy or blended fruits or even fruit juice. That's fine. You can use whatever you want. Someone who's on level 3 who has restricted carb intake during the days of the week, I would recommend using blended fruits. Every once in a while, go after the sugars like the Twizzlers. You know, if you're an early morning workout type person and it's easier for you to eat 5 Twizzlers than it is to put down, an orange or the blended fruits in general, then go ahead and do that. But you'll want the micronutrients that are in the fruit more often than not. Just from a health perspective, it's perfectly fine if you go after the sugars before your workout, but from a health perspective, I would go after blended fruits and apple sauces, cranberry sauces, things of that nature that are going to give you much more nutrition. And then fats. Fats are an interesting one. Level 1, you're going to have, like 3 almonds for a fat block. Fats for level 2 are going to come from your proteins and from your nuts and seeds. So you've got to watch your fats from both places and just keep taking that measurement. Just make sure that you measure everything out appropriately. Now, when we're talking about how to put things together for level 1, if you take a look at your sheet, everything is broken into blocks. So you look at chicken is 1 ounce, steak is 1 ounce, and then if you look over at the carbohydrates, you might have a full cup of broccoli is supposedly or a cup of cooked broccoli is 1 block, something of that nature. And then I think it's 3 almonds is a block on the fat side. So you're going to put your meals together like that. You're going to take a look at 1 block of chicken. So let's say that I put a plan together for you that says you're supposed to have 10 blocks of protein, 10 blocks of carb, and 10 blocks of fat. Cool. So for breakfast, you're going to have 3, 3, and 3. So you go and you take 3, let's say, eggs, because 1 egg is a block. So you grab 3 eggs, and then you look at your carbohydrate, and you're like, half an apple is a block. Cool. I'm going to have 1.5 apples. And then you go to your fats, and 3 almonds is a block. You need 3 blocks, so 3, 6, 9. I've got 9 almonds. That is now a perfect breakfast for 3, 3, and 3. And then you can set up a lunch that's 3, 3, and 3 as well, and maybe a dinner that's 4, 4, and 4. Although I did not account for the carbs pre-workout right there. So don't use that plan. But you might go 3, 3, 3, and then 3, 1, 3. And then in the evening, have a 4. Let's see, 3, 4, 4, 2, 4. And then we're going to have 4 blocks. I believe it's 4 blocks for women and something like 8 blocks for the men if you're for your pre-workout. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff on there. If you want to take fruit, you can just take that amount of fruit and blend it because it's going to be 4 blocks. But if you decide to have candy, and this is what a lot of people are trying to do or want to do that are on level 1, they're looking for that candy or added sugars, and it's not on the block sheet. What you're going to do for the women is take 36 grams of sugar and go back to that label whatever it is that you're trying to eat, if it's an added sugar, it's probably going to have a label. Take that nutrition facts label and just eat the right quantity of food to make it equal about 36 grams of carb. And that'll be considered 4 blocks. And then the men, you're looking at 8 blocks, so that's 8 times 9 is 72 grams, I believe. I could be making that up. I probably am. No, I believe it's 5 to 6 blocks for the men. Sorry. 5 to 6 blocks for the men, so you'll be looking for 45 grams of carbohydrate, right in that range, the 45 to 50 gram range. And you'll do the same thing. Just take a look at that nutrition facts label and go, okay, 16 pieces is 37 grams. So what do I need to make it 45? And then eat that appropriate quantity. It's probably in the neighborhood of 20 for the Sour Patch Kids anyway. Twizzlers, I know 5 Twizzlers would be good for the ladies and probably 6 Twizzlers for the men. It's just a really easy go-to because it's such a small quantity of food to get that appropriate amount of sugar. But remember, that's just for your pre-workout. The rest of the day, you want to stick to vegetables and fruits and keep it in wide variety. Hopefully this is a quick video that helps to answer that question, kind of what are these macro things and how exactly do I count them. If you guys have any questions, just leave them below or post them in the group and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Good luck, everybody.